go through the disassembly and assembly and the lubrication of the Beretta semi-auto, the 391 model. And I'll introduce myself. My name is Rick Gump. I'm the service manager at Beretta. A couple things we'll look at as we go through. Of course, I always make sure the gun's unloaded. But in order to do this, the reason we're doing this is cut down on some of the calls that come in. These are ready things that you can do out in the field or when you get ready to clean your gun. As you noticed, I pushed down on the carrier button to lock the bolt back. There's two ways that you can lock the bolt back, but I'm going to check and make sure everything's empty before we go any further. I'm going to push my cartridge latch button, my bolt comes up. I can push my carrier button on the bottom. If I push that, my bolt will lock back in the lock position. Another way to do that is, of course, my gun's unloaded, is if I pull the trigger. That will also lock my bolt back. I want my bolt locked back, and I'll go ahead and disassemble. Your fore-end cap should just be hand tight. And another thing to look for on your fore-end cap, it's very important to keep it clean. You want to keep it clean because this area needs to be spring-loaded at all times. And I'll demonstrate this. If I put this on a hard surface, you can see how it stays spring-loaded. Your fore-end cap should always be spring-loaded position. This boss area here should always protrude up above your fore-end cap. Put a little bit of lubrication in there. That'll be fine. I'll set it right here. Go ahead and take my fore-end off. And one thing I want to touch on is when you put your fore-end back on, I'll go ahead and touch base on this. Always make sure that this recess always goes down into your receiver, just like that. It should never be out of this recess cut. It should meet down in a machined area. It should be flush. I'll go ahead and take my fore-end off. Taking my barrel off. Gas piston. Now this is an area that I encourage customers not to lubricate. I clean it with steel wool, keep this clean, and also my gas piston, I don't lubricate this. I don't lubricate the area inside because the hot gas that works from any semi-auto, if it hits oil, it basically carbons it up. You'll see it become very sticky. So I leave this dry, but I keep it clean. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring my bolt forward. I'm going to hold pressure on my bolt with my bolt handle and push my cartridge latch button. The bolt comes forward. My caulking rod handle will pull right out, very easy. Pulls right out. It's just spring loaded. And at this time, I want to push my cartridge latch button, my carrier button. Comes right out. It should come right out of the receiver. Take my operating rod off. Operating rod goes right in this groove. My bolt slide comes right out of my bolt. Now these are areas you should keep lubed. You can put a couple drops on your firing pin spring, a couple drops on your extractor. Your extractor always should be spring loaded. Put a few drops on your bolt slide. This area also. You can see the shiny spots where your hammer and also where it rides in your receiver. If you see these shiny spots, put some lubrication on there. I don't like using grease. I use a good oil. We use the oleo oil that comes with the gun. Slip 2000, Militech, they're all fine oils. I'll go ahead and take my trigger group out. Again, push your carrier button. Your trigger plate pin will come out either way. I like taking it out from this side, from my left to the right. I'll lay this down. Tap it out. Pin should pull right out. Now when I'm ready to take this out, I'll push this button and I'll just work my trigger back and you can see sometimes they get kind of sticky in there, but always put them in rear first. Always hold your button down, either putting it in or taking it out. We'll do it again. Comes right out. Now an area to keep lubed also is inside your guide rails and your receiver. Put a few drops inside on both sides. You can see your rails. And also your trigger group assembly. See the shiny spots? Put oil on them. That's the best information I can give you there. A few drops on the springs, also your hammer spring. You can even put a couple drops down inside where your trigger is. Now if you release your hammer, I always make sure my hammer's in the cock position when I put it back in, but if you release your hammer, I always hold tension on it, let it come up. Make sure that this pin stays in. You may want to hold your finger on your pin because if you let your hammer go up, it takes the tension off of this pin and it could come out. One very inexpensive way to clean this is mineral spirits. You can use mineral spirits to clean up, have a small brush, blow it, get a can of air, blow it clean. But then always make sure keep this pin in mind. Once you get it cleaned, I just make a habit of locking my hammer down and re-oil it. It's really important to keep your semi-auto clean and lube because your semi-auto works off of gas. Every time you pull the trigger, the gas is going to come back in all your area, all your mechanics of your semi-auto. So if I make it a good practice, if I go out and shoot 25 rounds or I go out and shoot 500 rounds, I clean my gun. That's going to keep the life of your semi-auto, and you'll have years to enjoy your Beretta. Another thing is 5,000 to 7,000 rounds is a good preventive maintenance. We can go through this in a future date. I always replace my recoil spring. Your recoil spring is the one element in your semi-auto that each time you pull the trigger, as your bolt works, your recoil spring takes the abuse. It takes the use of your bolt system working back and forth. So it's a good preventive maintenance. 5,000 to 7,000 rounds. It's inexpensive to replace, but that's a good preventive maintenance.